Hey everyone, it's time for another episode of Lost Battles. And I have set up the game for the Battle of Plataea, which was the final battle in the second Persian invasion of Greece that occurred in 479 BC. And very interesting battle this was indeed, and we are going to reconstruct it using Philip Sabin's amazing Lost Battles game, and hopefully I'm going to give you a bit of a summary at the end of each turn to let you know how it proceeds. But just as a quick introduction to the setup that Philip suggests, and like most of these, in fact like all of these ancient battles, the composition and numbers of the armies are widely debated, but the beauty about Philip Sabin's book and model, he brings a new perspective to determining the composition of armies. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to have to assume that some of you know the basics of Lost Battles, because it's a little too complex to sort of explain it all here. But I'm going to extol the virtues of this game forever because it is absolutely fantastic. And if you do get a little bit lost, then pick yourself up a copy of this book, and if you can find a copy of the game, grab it. So what we have here is the Greek city-states, and let's just take a look at the map maybe first before we do that. So we've got the Greek city-states on this side of the map and the Persians on that side of the map, and there's a couple of key features here which were relevant in this battle, and they are a couple of hill regions here, the hill over here, I can't recall the name of it, and the river across to the left and left over here. So it's quite a constrained area through here, with these terrain features quite significant in this battle, which will be very interesting. And we have an initial deployment of some of the Greek city-state troops and some of the Persians. These are the undeployed Greeks, and over here I've got the undeployed Persians. They'll move away from this area shortly because here we'll be putting our shattered, withdrawn and routed units as they leave the battlefield. So let's take a look at the composition of the Greek city-states armies as Philip has arrived at, and through his model, which is a fascinating read. And so deployed early on here, and both armies were surprised in this scenario. We've got 2 units of veteran hoplites with their commander, Pausanias. I think I pronounced that wrong, but anyway. So 2 veteran hoplite units are on the board, and they are Spartan hoplites from the Spartan city-states. Looking to our undeployed, we have 3 veteran hoplite infantry units, and they are Spartan and 1 Tegean. Making up the bulk of the rest of the Greek city-states army are 13 average hoplites, and they comprise 3 Athenian units, 2 Lacedaemonian, 2 Corinthian, 1 Siconian and 1 Megarian, and 4 allied average hoplite infantry units. And to the left of this undeployed lot, we've got some average levy archers and some levy light infantry. Sorry, what am I saying? Average light infantry and levy light infantry. I'm reading from the book here. So they have a fighting value, the Greeks, of 67. Currently deployed on the Persian side of the battlefield, we've got some average light cavalry occupying the hill, and we have in their key zone some levy light cavalry, levy heavy cavalry, some average cavalry, and their commander Mardonius. He's an average leader actually. So those are their undeployed units, sorry, their deployed units. And looking at their undeployed units, we have the bulk of their army made up of levy archer infantry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units, some average heavy cavalry, some levy light infantry, and then we have levy heavy infantry and average archer infantry and average hoplite infantry. So we've got quite a variety of units for the Persians, and they'll all be coming onto the board in support of their initial units as well. So although they have a few extra units, they have a fighting value of only 58 as opposed to the Greeks' fighting value of 67. So the scenario set up so that it favours the Greeks, which is historically how the battle played out. That's one of the beauties about this system. The key zones are placed here and here, and they're very much located in this model generally to encourage armies to follow historical guidelines, and they very much, or possession of those key zones very much affects army morale and so forth. So again, you have to sort of know a little bit about the game and system to fully understand what they mean. But the beauty about this book is, each battle has a few pages devoted towards it, and it expels out everything about the particular battle and how Philip arrives at the numbers and the types of troops and the quality of troops and so forth. I mean, even before you start playing the battle, you've had a wonderful experience learning about the battle and how Philip's model looks at existing evidence and accounts and so forth, and just casts new light on it. So the in this scenario, the Greeks will be going first, and I will be giving you updates hopefully at the end of each turn to let you know how it goes. So just the recap before we get into it. So looking back, we've got our initial Greeks deployed here, our Persians here between these two mounds, and a lot of hoplites to come on, and a lot of Persian troops. The Persian numbers varied according to different scholars, up into the hundreds of thousands, some of the estimates. But yes, we'll see how this game plays out. Looking forward to it. Okay, so this is the situation at the end of turn 1 for both the Greek city-states and the Persians, and looking at the Greeks first, bearing in mind there are deployment constraints for both armies, as they were surprised. They can only bring a maximum of 4 units in on the first turn, and heavy infantry count as 2. So what's happened with the Greeks? They've advanced, they've used their commander to actually launch into an attack with him in the lead. So straight away they're thinking they're just trying to gain the initiative. And the hoplites went into the attack, the 2 that were there, and rolled very well and scored hits on both their levy cavalry units. So a very strong start to the Greeks there with some fortuitous rolls. They then reinforced this key zone tile with light infantry express moving and veteran hoplites express moving into there, and brought a light infantry unit into the occupy the hills in the rear here. Moving over to the Persians, they decided to bring their light infantry on to occupy this ridge here. They brought heavy cavalry to reinforce this left flank here, and they're bringing in their archers in the rear there. Now I'm not sure if it's a great idea, because they've left and they also used their leader to battle back against the Greek leader. So both leaders decided that they were going to just try and take the initiative early and get stuck in. So both leaders are in the lead there, which does expose them somewhat. and their attacks from this tile failed to inflict any damage on the hoplites. So first turn is over. I haven't done deployment recently, so I'm hoping I got the deployment correct with the specific rules for the turn 1, with a maximum 4 units being able to get onto the board. Things will open up in the following turn. So we've basically got the Persians sort of securing that hill line. They're looking a little bit weak in the front there, given they've got quite a strong hoplite presence here. So it'll be interesting to see if the hoplites can inflict some damage here this turn. They're looking really strong, and yeah, so it's going to be quite interesting right from the start. So back tomorrow with turn 2.
Okay, it's the end of the Greek second turn, and the Greeks have been able to capitalise on the early deployments better than the Persians, and they've made a renewed attack in the centre here and shattered 2 of the Persian levy horse, and have really created an opportunity for themselves there. And then they've also reinforced the field with bringing on more average hoplites and some veteran hoplites to hold that left flank. They have left themselves a little exposed on their right flank here. They haven't reinforced that. Their aim was to sort of try and get a decisive advantage to the centre, which they have. So we've got the Persians now reacting, and they'll obviously have to do something about this dangerous situation. Maybe they've got an opportunity here to upset the Greek right flank. So that's the end of the Greek turn 2. So the problem for the Persians is that they've lost 4 fighting value from their army, bringing them down to just 1 basic command of the few they've got on the table. Let me just double check that actually. So they've got 2, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and the average commander is 6, I think. Yeah, that's 19. So he should be here. Still down to 1 fighting value at this stage in terms of commands. 1 command, so that's really tough. They need a good die roll. Let's do the die roll now for the Persians. Okay, they've got 6. Okay, that's going to really help them in this situation. So they've got their basic 1 command plus the 6 will give them 7. Okay, so that's very useful. They've still got the restriction, they can only bring on 4 units because the army is surprised, but the heavy infantry and cavalry counting as double do not is over there after the first turn. Okay, so anyway, here we go into the second turn for the Persians. Let you know how it goes. Okay, so it's the end of the Persian second turn, and it's been quite an exciting turn. Looking at the field from afar, as you can see, the Persians have vacated this area, this tile here that came under sustained attack early on, and come back to that in one moment. So what they've done is they've brought their 2 horse units, the heavy and light cavalry, down, and they've attacked the advancing veteran hoplites with their screen of light infantry in the flank, to no avail though. The Persian commander Madonius decided to express move out of that situation and got himself onto that hill to the right there. Things were just too dire in the centre, and they have reinforced this left rear tile, the Persians, and reinforced this hill, which is now facing some veteran hoplite infantry. So they just really reacted to that crushing attack in the beginning there, maybe drawing these hoplites into this area here where they can reinforce this unit here and maybe attack them in the flank a little bit here. No hits there from the Persians, but
quite tactical moves to withdraw out of that key zone and maybe draw the hoplites in there, and hopefully be able to deal with them at that point there. So yeah, it's quite dangerous losing that key zone if the Persians take advantage of it, because it will affect their morale tests. Okay, so that's the end of the second round for both sides. Okay, it's the end of the third turn for the Greeks, and they've opted to take a cautious approach to this deployment here, and they haven't taken the bait and gone into this space here, which could have been fruitful, but Pausanias has decided that it was better to get his troops on the field, get those commands up. So what he has done is he launched an attack from the light infantry that are occupying the hill on the lower right here to try and disrupt this flanking attack on the main veteran hoplite line. It was ineffectual. He then expressed moves some more veteran hoplites to support his left flank there, facing the couple of units on the hill, and he brought the bulk of his army on here. And I just realised I've brought 1 too many units on, because I've got a maximum of 4 units brought on. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 new units brought on this turn, and he has not used his main force this turn, opting, as I said, to regroup, get as many troops onto the board before he launches his next attack. So he has left himself exposed to a continued flank attack here. Yeah, quite an interesting situation. So we'll see what the Persians do on their turn 3. Okay, it's the end of the Persian turn 3. Let's take a look at the battlefield. And the Persians elected to advance and retake the key zone. It was just too critical to leave that unoccupied, given the morale benefits that provides. They reinforced by bringing on their archer infantry and some heavy infantry at the rear there. The average archers on the hill here launched an assault on the veteran hoplites, but that had no effect. And significantly, this cavalry attack on the main Greek line inflicted a hit on the skirmishing light infantry and shattered them, but they survived their morale with strong veteran units. The following attack by the second unit did no damage, and Adonius has come in and rejoined this attacking flanking cavalry group. So the Persians have got their fighting value up to 43, and yeah, so that's the situation after both players or both sides have had 3 turns. I failed to mention the last previous turn, the Greeks rolled only 1 for their commands, so that sort of hamstrung them in terms of what they could do. So the Persians have sort of regrouped a little bit here after that initial setback. They are threatening here on this Greek right flank. This light unit's not going to be enough, I don't think, to do much about it, but there are strong reinforcements coming up. So we'll see how the Greeks handle this situation. It's quite fluid. Okay, we're at the end of the Greek turn 4, and the Greeks have gotten a large majority of their army onto the battlefield, with a few still to deploy. They have launched attacks with their left flank hoplites into the hill with no success. They have attacked in the centre prior to bringing up reinforcing hoplites and inflicting some damage on the opposing average hoplites. And the stars and the heroes of this part of the battle were the Greek helots, the Spartan serfs who do the farming for the Spartan warriors. They've been positioned on the rear right hill, as you know, and they've been trying to threaten this cavalry flanking force on the main Greek force, and they've gone in there and they've gone in strong, and they've inflicted 2 hits on this force. So if Parnasius and the Greeks prevail, I'm sure the Helots will be well rewarded at the end of the battle if they survive. So that's the situation from the Greek perspective. They've really strengthened their main centre. Probably overpowered here because there's a limit to how much they can attack out of a square. But the plan is to crush this Persian centre and then maybe peel off to the right with some remaining troops if these guys advance to deal with these cavalry. But they are still a threat at this point. Okay, so that's the end of the Greek turn, and I think steady progress for the Greeks at the moment. Okay, so here we are at the end of the Persian turn 4. Let's take a closer look as to what happened. So the Persian left flank cavalry, led by Mardonius, decided that this was impregnable with their masses of infantry there, and they weren't having any impact, so they decided to swing round and try and get in the rear of the Greek lines by breaking through this levy light infantry, the Helots, but they were unsuccessful even after Mardonius led the charge up the hill. These Helots obviously got stuck into the terrain and just held off the cavalry attacks. So a sterling job being done by the Helots holding the right flank of this Greek army. And the Persians fought back in the centre before reinforcing from the rear tile, inflicting some major damage, or 2 units of the veteran hoplites were spent, which was a pretty good result. And they made a strike down the hill with the light infantry, but that was easily repulsed by the veteran hoplites. They didn't bring any on. They've still got 6 units of levy archer infantry, but Mardonius wanted the attacks to go in as a priority. So we have a situation here where the Greek is very, very strong in the centre. It's relatively balanced here on the Greek left wing. You've got stronger veteran units here, but the Persians are ensconced on the hill. And on the right here, this spent cavalry force is still a threat, but the Helots have just held on and have really nullified it, with more hoplites coming to the rescue as well. So it's becoming a bit of a grinding match at this point, and we'll see how it pans out. So that's the end of turn 4. Okay, so this is an update at the end of the Greek turn 4, and it's all going the Greeks' way at the moment, and surprisingly the Helots are prevailing on the right wing. They've shattered all 3 of the cavalry units that were already spent and driven down off the cliff. Those guys must be on P or something. Granted, the Greeks are rolling very well and the Persians are rolling really poorly, unfortunately. But yeah, this light infantry have just swarmed down and destroyed that cavalry and secured the Greek right flank. In the centre, the Greeks have inflicted heavy damage in this battle of attrition that's taking place here. And by the way, so what happened was 1 unit was shattered here and the rest routed off the field. Where are we? Over here, the veteran hoplites have had a attack up the hill, inflicted some damage on the light infantry who've withdrawn back to the mass of archers who withstood the second attack, and now the Greeks have got all their troops on the field and they can taste the victory at this point. So it's going to take a bit of a miracle for the Persians to hold this position, particularly in the centre here where they've got masses of troops facing them and they're virtually nearly all spent. So so it's going pretty much historically. I'll come back to you in a moment after turn 5 for the Persians, see if they can stabilise the situation somehow. I'm not sure how they can do it. Okay, it's the end of the Persian turn 5 and not much has happened. They had very few commands. They rolled, they got an extra 2 commands, so couldn't do much at all. They haven't attacked. All they've done is reinforced with the express movement, some levy archers to join the front line here to try and hold out against this massive advancing Greek force, and they've brought in some express movement to get some levy archers on this hill up here to stop these helots once and for all. So yeah, that's all they could do. They had no other commands available with the loss of their leader, and now they're just going to have to try and withstand this next round of assaults. If they do, the battle may be a bit prolonged, but if these guys now prevail, it's likely they're going to sweep away most of this force. Let you know how we go shortly.
Okay, the Greek attack has gone in,
and Pausanias has launched his centre into the Persian centre and completely routed them after shattering one of their levy units, and took the whole tile away in rout. With only 2 units left on the board, they go to the withdrawal column, and the Greeks are victorious, hugely victorious. The Persians failed to get levy archer infantry 4 units onto the board, and I believe they go into the withdrawn pile as well. So the Greeks have prevailed, and it was this really strong centre that just hammered away at the Persians. But really what saved them the day, I think, was this levy light infantry, the helots that defended the hill, then routed this cavalry coming down in support of their masters on the left there. Hugely outplayed their size, and certainly the die rolls went the way of the Greeks, there's no doubt about that, so that did have some impact on the battle. But a fascinating affair, very much confined to the right hand side of the field, and let's do a tally of the victory points to see how it worked out in the end. Okay, so here we go with a wrap up of the points victory calculation, and we ended up with the Greeks having a point superiority of 45, which is very, very significant, and that turns out to be a major game victory. So yeah, that was quite obvious really, because they've virtually dominated the field with only 1 casualty, whereas the entire Persian army was routed. So a major game victory to the Greeks.